Hello everybody. This video is about the big storm that is going to be moving across the plains into the Ohio Valley from our Wednesday into our Halloween. So this weather system is going to bring a threat of severe weather from the south central plains into Missouri, Illinois, and parts of the Ohio Valley through Halloween. So now's the time to start making those plans to prepare in case you hear a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado watch or warning issued for your area. Because this storm, while it doesn't look like much right now, it is going to pack intense winds, small hail, and the threat of tornadoes. So we're going to break down what's going to happen here, where the biggest risks are going to be, and what it is that you can expect in your area, because this is about keeping you safe as these storms roll through. So as I mentioned, right now, this storm is beginning to get its act together. It's moving out of the Rockies into parts of Nebraska and Kansas. On the northwest side, it's cold enough. We see that blue 540 line has dipped down. We're seeing mountainous snows across parts of Wyoming. On our Wednesday, we will see snowfall 12 to 18 inches across parts of Wyoming. In the Black Hills, you'll see about a foot of snow as well. We'll see rain out ahead of this, but it's not associated with this low pressure system. So let's take a look at what's going to happen. As I mentioned, we're going to start to see energy develop in the Rockies. It's going to jet out into the central plains for our Wednesday. We're going to start to see isolated storms across Nebraska and Iowa early in the day on Wednesday. It's going to form a line of storms down through Kansas into northern Oklahoma by the time we get to our Wednesday night. That system is going to start moving east into our early morning on Halloween. So we're here about 6 a.m. That's beginning to cross the Mississippi River into parts of Illinois and Indiana. They are weakening as they move east, but still we could see something spin up. And on the far northwest side, we see across parts of Minnesota into the Upper Peninsula, we start to see that snowfall falling. So what does that mean for our area? What is the Storm Prediction Center saying? Well, let's take a look at that. Because right now, we have, for our Wednesday, we have high wind warnings and wind advisories across parts of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. This is one of the ingredients that's going to be necessary that's really going to get these storms going. The other one is going to be the deep moisture that's going to be transported northward from the Gulf of Mexico. So let's see how this all looks out. And when the Storm Prediction Center takes all of these pieces into consideration, the wind advisory, the deep transport of moisture from the Gulf, they've identified an area of eastern Kansas into northern Oklahoma as being under an enhanced risk. That is an area, a level 3. It includes Kansas City, Topeka, and Olathe, Kansas. Outside of that, they've identified an area of slight risk. It's not to say that you won't have tornadoes or small hail in this area, but the greatest chance of that happening is here in this enhanced risk. But areas like Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, you are included in that slight risk. The Storm Prediction Center has also identified an even smaller area within that enhanced risk, an area far southeastern Nebraska, down to Topeka, Wichita. You are under a greater chance of seeing tornadic activity develop in this area. And the reason that we see this is just the conditions as they all come together. It's from Kansas City southwestward as a warm front is draped across the east towards Illinois, and right behind the system we're going to see a dry line. So all three of those factors coming together, the trailing cold front, the warm front out ahead, and the dry line behind it, is what we call a triple point. Those three factors coming together somewhere in this shaded area is why we believe that is where we're going to have the greatest risk of tornadic activity for our Wednesday. So let's move ahead and look at this, how this all plays out. So early in the morning on our Wednesday, we see not much going on. We start to see a few storms start to pop across Kansas into Nebraska into Iowa. That starts to form a little bit more of a line as we move into our afternoon and early evening. But as that low continues to move and we get closer to Missouri, we start to see a stronger line of storms forming, even down into Oklahoma, moving into northwestern Arkansas. It is this line as it moves through the night on our Wednesday into our Thursday that we are most concerned about, because it is in with that line of storms as it develops, moves out of Kansas into Missouri, down into Arkansas. We'll see it come back up here in a minute. That in that line, it's easy to mistake the rain and the wind when actually you could have what we call a QLCS happening. That's a quasi-linear convective system. So within some of these discrete thunderstorm cells, we can see tornadoes get wrapped up in them. So we don't think that it's a tornado coming. We don't see it on radar because everything that we see on radar indicates just straight-line winds or a supercell thunderstorm. But we have to be on the watch out for those QLCSs on our Wednesday. And so as we move into our Thursday, as that storm system moves out of Kansas into Missouri, into Illinois, it's going to lose a little bit of its punch, especially as it moves into Indiana. We've had extremely dry air, but the air has moistened in this area. On our far northern branch, across parts of Minnesota into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and northern parts of Wisconsin, Rhinelander, you could definitely see snowflakes flying for your Halloween. All of this moves out of there by the time the kids are trick-or-treating on our Halloween. And why is all this happening? So one of the things we look at is this is the map of the jet stream. Again, this is on our Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So this is where the jet stream is positioned to be. So we have winds that are coming down off of the Rockies. They're making this trough, and then they're being ejected northeastward out of the plains into the into Minnesota, into Wisconsin. So when we try to draw a line of where these isobars, these lines of equal pressure, we try to find the low, the trough, we see that this line is a little bit negatively tilted. And a negatively tilted trough is one that is a strengthening storm. We mentioned this in our video on Sunday. When it was over the Rockies, it wasn't as negatively tilted. It was actually positively tilted. But as this storm has evolved, as we've got new data coming in, we believe that the jet stream is actually going to be negatively tilted. So we're going to watch this. We're going to watch the winds. That's going to also aid the winds to be a little stronger on the southeast side of this. It's going to help pull that moisture up from the Gulf into the system. So all three of those things are ones why we believe that we will see severe weather here. We look here at the wind shear. This is a measure of how much the winds are changing direction and changing speed with height. So if you think the winds here at the surface, the direction they are, and you go about 3 miles up in the atmosphere, what direction, what speed they are, and you go 6 kilometers up in the atmosphere, what direction, what speed are those winds. The more those change with height, the greater the shear. And we see that with our red. And where we have the greatest shear, and again, as this moves east out of Kansas towards Missouri, this is why we think areas like Kansas City and Topeka, Wichita, you are going to be under the gun for the possibility of tornadic thunderstorms. And as I mentioned, we have you can see here from the water vapor, a nice, strong, direct pipeline of moisture into the system. You can almost kind of see the triple point here because there's kind of like the cold front, the dry air is behind it, and then you see the warm air out ahead of it. So there's the warm front. So that's why, again, we see here in Kansas City, we start to see that could be where the triple point coalesces and the strongest severe thunderstorms come together. So let's take a look at our radar. Again, as we mentioned, our future radar starts with some storms across the area early on our Wednesday. But again, as we go throughout the day, those storms are going to pick up in their intensity. Initially, they have the threat of producing some hail and some strong winds will be the primary threats. But as we get into the evening, Wednesday night into our Thursday, that's when we start to see the possibility of that QLCS as it moves from Oklahoma into Arkansas, and the storms continue to move east into parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky. So we'll continue to watch this, but But again, as they move into the Ohio Valley, we do expect these storms to weaken just a little bit, and they won't be as impactful for our trick-or-treat time. And when we're said and done with this, we could see anywhere from half an inch will be common across most of this area. We could see isolated amounts of 1 inch, especially north from Iowa into central Wisconsin into southeastern Minnesota. 1 inch plus of rainfall is likely for those areas. So we see this weekend, we see another line of severe storms starting to form across the south central plains, the same area that we're seeing Wednesday and Thursday. So we're going to be in this pattern where every 3 or 4 days we see a low pressure system, a trough digging in the west. It's going to create severe weather across the plains, and on the northwest side we're going to see that snowfall. Make sure you have a way to be weather aware, whether that's having a weather radio in your home that alerts you to changes in the weather, or you stay tuned to a local television station, or stay tuned here, and we'll bring you the latest updates as they become available. So we hope you have a great evening. We hope to see you again soon here at the Weather Farm. Have a great evening.